Will apologize. I've got two dogs. I have a Bernese Mountain Dog at my feet right now and a Golden Retriever. They probably won't bark, but it may happen. Yeah. Remote life. Great. Hello? Testing. Cool. Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely. Before we totally dive into this, though, quickly, I'm just curious. So, is just being uploaded on kind of the summit site for people to watch and see what we do from a tax jar perspective? Just so I have a okay. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, the only thing for us, just so you know, from a transparency standpoint, is we're currently only hiring people who are U.S. citizens, just because of tax laws, and we don't have an HR lawyer right now. So that well, we do, but that's kind of my position. So just so you know, we can offer positions obviously to people who are based in the U.S. and they can work abroad. But I just want to be transparent with you on that right now. Okay, cool, awesome, perfect. All right, let's dive in. Sure, absolutely. Happy to be here. Sure, absolutely. So our main mission is to make e-commerce easier for everyone. Here in the United States, we have multiple different sales tax regulations from state to county to, and then on the federal level, it is different everywhere. So we basically serve as a solution for e-commerce sellers that plugs into WooCommerce, Magento, to basically auto-file and make filing your sales tax as an e-commerce seller busier so you can, or excuse me, easier so you can focus on your business. So that's what we do in a nutshell. We have multiple teams from marketing to development to customer service, and we are located all across the United States. We even have a girl who lives on a boat, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so we basically work all together to solely make commerce easier for our e-commerce sellers. It's good. So you mentioned I'm like head of employment. I kind of just want to correct on that. I'm actually head of employee experience. So my role is really kind of the life cycle of bringing somebody on board, making sure they feel welcome, keeping the culture together, working on our team offsites, just making sure that everyone feels like they know where things are. And really, one of my biggest missions is making sure cross functionally are communicating with each other and understanding each other on a personal level, because our business is based on trust. If you're a remote company, how are you going to trust your coworkers if you don't know them? So that's really the basis of my role. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the last question? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Absolutely. It's fascinating. I love it. The sales tax space is complicated and amazing and wonderful, and we're solving a really, really real problem for e-commerce sellers. I mean, the goal of running an online business is not to deal with your sales tax, it's to run your business and love your product and sell your product. So it's really cool to be part of a company that really sees our customers as number one. And then from a standpoint of how's it going, from how I've been here for, yes, I guess about 9 months now, it's great. It's so cool to be part of a pretty rapidly growing startup and really help to build out our onboarding program and our culture programs. And I actually got to kind of have the moment that I think everyone waits for in working for a remote company. I help plan our company offsite. We do two offsites a year where we bring everyone from the United States to one common location in the US. And I got to meet everyone, and there were 25 people who had been hired since I was hired, including myself, who had never met anyone face to face. So it's going really well. That was probably the catalyst of just like, this is real, this is happening. So that's something really cool that we do too that I think is essential to a remote company. Jarfest. If you do sing karaoke, you could call it Jam Fest. Yes, I would say 110% yes to that. I think investing in bringing all employees together at the same time to really get to know each other on not that people don't know each other on a personal level, but to be in physical contact and to read body language, and you get to see things that are outside of chat or Zoom and really connect on a deeper level from an interest standpoint, and also to get things done from a work standpoint, I think is essential to a remote company. I think any remote company that's not bringing their employees together at least once a year, if not twice, I think it's essential we do it twice a year, is doing themselves a huge disservice. Yeah. Hmm. So this is technically my first fully remote role. That being said, I actually worked for Airbnb for about 3.5, 4 years. So was working with teams that were in Japan and Australia and all over the world. So I kind of took that knowledge and that skill set of cross communicating across time zones. It really is in some way like working remotely. So I felt really confident coming into this role that I could adopt that fully remote lifestyle. And also for me, being fully remote is a non-negotiable for me for the rest of my life. Like I would never work any other way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. I would say not even just time zones, but I always, when I'm looking at resumes, I never want to negate somebody because they haven't had fully remote experience. I think some things that we really look for that we've seen that have proven to be successful is a huge entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of people on our team have actually owned their own businesses and sold their own businesses. And being an entrepreneur, you have to go with the flow. You work weird hours. You're always on the go. Like that's a huge sign. Another huge sign is comfort with cloud-based tools. Are you comfortable communicating across Basecamp, Slack, Trello, Asana, whatever that may be? We use Basecamp, but that comfort level with chat communication, things like Skype, like we're on right now, or Zoom, which we use for our all company team calls and all of our video meetings. Comfort level with that is huge, and that can really help, I think, with noticing somebody's skill set and knowing, okay, well, maybe you haven't been fully remote before, but this really tells me that you're committed and that you can make this transition fairly easily. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. I think for me, on not even a professional level, but a personal level, when I'm happy and my dreams are being fulfilled from like a personal level, obviously I'm going to excel in my professional life. And for me, one of my like personal core values is I love to travel. Like traveling is a non-negotiable for me. And so the freedom, like I'm in Oregon right now, house sitting for my best friend's dog while they're on their honeymoon and I'm visiting my family and I can bring my dog and I can live in Lake Tahoe in a community that we don't have much of a community. There's hardly anybody there. I live in the middle of the mountains. There's a bear in my front yard all the time. The ability to be able to do live kind of this life that I've always wanted to live, but also excel in a profession that I was born to do and that I love doing is a match made in heaven for me. And I see it, everyone has a different reason for working remotely. And I see it on our team all the time. I mean, we've got people who love working remotely because they're never going to miss their kid's baseball game, or they are going to be able to stay with their grandpa when they're sick, or they're able just to pop on over to New York for Christmas to visit an auntie. And that is so special. We're not restricting ourselves because I have to get in the car and be at an office that ends up being a 12-hour day with a commute. And it's wasteful time. And I can work the hours that I need to work. I work a lot, but I also really enjoy the fact that my schedule is flexible. I do. Uh, sure. I just got back from Mexico. I was there for a wedding. Yeah, I just got back from Mexico. Right now, I'm in Oregon for the month. I'm not really sure what's next, but that's the beauty of it. Is if I drove up here on a Saturday, spent my weekend here, and then just dove into work on Monday morning. And it makes really no difference. My quality of work is the same, if not better, because I'm happy. Sure. So I'll kind of answer that twofold. I'll answer it first of how we keep it going within TaxJar, and then how I keep it going personally. I think isolation is and can be a reality of remote work for sure. I definitely feel it sometimes when I am back home in Tahoe. There aren't a lot of people around. And so, how I really keep it within TaxJar and one of my roles is noticing that if I'm feeling this way, there are probably other people who are feeling this way, who live less remotely than I do in terms of like their physical space. So we've created a lot of things within TaxJar to really bond people and have kind of that internal community, even within Basecamp. And that's everything from creating social channels within our project management system, from kids at TaxJar to pets at TaxJar to a health wellness group. This month, we've launched a health and wellness challenge where you need to get 7,000 steps in per day, and you just share a photo of where you walked or where you ran or where you got exercise today. And then at the end of the month, we'll do a drawing for whoever did this every day for $100 to Amazon. So it creates this community of, I get to see where Kyle ran in Tennessee, or I get to see where somebody kayaked and got their arm workout in. And so it's really, really cool. It kind of opens up these lines of communication and creates this community of similar interests. So that's really something that we work really hard to do internally to negate any sort of isolation. And that spans even further from that to things like skill shares, where somebody shares a skill, to celebrating birthdays and anniversaries. I mean, we really work hard to make sure that no one feels like they're ever alone. Yeah, I'd say absolutely. I mean, you can't just grab somebody and say, let's go to happy hour, right? Right. So we've got to find ways, and we have found ways to kind of match what happy hour would mean. So whether that's just a hop on a call and chat, or we do something called Friday FaceTime, where our newer employees stick around and anyone who'd like to come on the call comes on, and we just popcorn questions from anything about life, and we just learn about that person. And so it's kind of like a happy hour chat, but without the booze and without the bar. But it's cool. You can be drinking a glass of wine if you want on your own. So that's what's really cool about it. And then from a personal standpoint, creating community, I think it's really cool to find other remote workers in my area. That's definitely something that I've sought out to do. And also just working from coffee shops and making sure I get out of the house and being around other people. That also falls on me and falls on anybody else who works remotely. You have to kind of have, if it's something you want, you kind of have to have that drive to get yourself out of your PJs and out of your house, because you don't have to. So I know that's something that I needed in my life. So I definitely make an effort to do that. I think, I don't know if this is necessarily a challenge, but I think something that really helps, and just something always to remember being a 100% remote company, is over communicate all the time. Because we're all kind of on our own schedules. I mean, we all pretty much work the same hours, give or take 3 hours with the Eastern time zone. I would say documentation and communication, like anyone coming into a project or a task that's been left open should know exactly where to pick up. They shouldn't have to ask that person. Just they should know exactly where to pick up, and all of that should have been documented. So I think just always being knowing that even though I've said things like 4 or 5 times, that's not annoying to people, and that's okay. And I just have to remember that is announcing something 4 or 5 times. I just want to make sure it gets out to everyone, and everybody knows that what's going on or the changes that have been made, and just being comfortable with that, being comfortable with repeating yourself, being comfortable with over documenting and over communication, because that's how we work together. We're remote. Oh yeah. Oh, really? Yep. Absolutely. Yes, I would say being a pro at communication is a non-negotiable for us. You have to be a good communicator to be able to work remotely. I think that that is non-negotiable for any remote worker. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I would say of curiosity. Um, oh, hello. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. I would say a huge thing and a huge trait that I really look for in people, that we look for at TaxJar and people, and that we found to be successful is curiosity. The curiosity to solve problems, the curiosity to learn about all the aspects of the business, even though it might not pertain to your role. The curiosity and drive just to work together and find solutions. Yeah, curiosity and problem solving, I'd say probably go pretty hand in hand. Um, Interestingly enough, I found that, and this isn't something I necessarily look for, like you don't have to be funny to work at TaxJar, but I found that humor has been really an interesting trait that's come out of some people that's really helped to kind of break down some barriers in terms of like the cultural standpoint of TaxJar. When somebody pops in with a joke that everybody kind of gets that is out of the woodworks, it's like you just immediately feel like, oh, I could talk to this guy. So I'd say that's something that was surprising that I've learned. But I'd say curiosity, and the ability to problem solve is huge. Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say so. Which is, it was something that pleasantly surprised me, and something I actually hadn't thought about coming to TaxJar, that I've really noticed kind of over the last 9 months of what's really helped to open people up, and I'd say that that's a huge catalyst in it. Sure. I'd actually say there's two sides to that. It's kind of a double-headed dragon. It's There's that conception, and then there's also the conception that remote workers are just goofing off and not working at all. which is so far from the truth, because I would say our team and other remote teams probably work too much. And so that is such an interesting, dichotomy, is those two camps of thought from people who have never worked remotely or are not familiar with remote work, because it's so different than either one of those, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a continuous challenge within all remote companies. I haven't really heard anything different. Um, I think there's no one solution at all. I think a big part of that is self discipline and giving yourself the permission to clock off, and also really setting that example from a leadership level is huge. So that's something that I'm really impressed with our leadership team and our C staff, is they really make a point. Our CEO really makes a point to take time off and encourage everyone else to take time off too. So. Do you mean in terms of taking time off, or just kind of in general? Sure. So we have everyone at an average of 40 hours a week. We don't track the time. We hire adults for a reason, and we hire people who are responsible and who can, obviously some weeks are going to be a little more than 40 and some weeks are going to be a little less. That's just the nature of the business. We're a quarterly business because we file sales tax. So, 4 months out of the year are crazy, like absolutely crazy. And people are probably working a little bit more than 40 hours a week. That being said, in those down months, from my position, I definitely look on our calendar and make sure people are taking time off. I make sure people are taking days off, because without that rest, people are going to get burned out, and that's the last thing that we want. So, to totally answer your question, no, we don't track time, but I don't. I hope and don't think we ever will need to, based on the expectations that are set when we hire, and also the people that we hire. Like, balance is huge, and balance is something that we strongly, strongly encourage. We never want to see people working 60 hours a week all the time. That's not okay. But if somebody's working 10 hours a week, then there's probably a problem. So. Well, I saw the posting. I was working in Lake Tahoe. I was working for a small marketing firm in between when I left Airbnb, and I came on to TaxJar, and I was thinking about all the things that I really, really wanted in my next role. And it totally had to do with employee experience. It had to do with company culture. It had to do with being able to build in a startup. I love problem solving. I love building things out of nothing. I thrive in it. I love working as a team. And I was on WeWork remotely, actually, and this position popped up, and I started reading it. I was like, sales tax. I've never worked in sales tax before. I've never worked in any sort of, I've always been in the hospitality industry. But then I started looking at the role and I was like, wow, this team is incredible. These are some of the smartest people I have read about. I want to be a part of this team. And the role specifically, because I was interacting with the product so much, the role specifically was so exactly what I'd been looking for. And it was even more than I even imagined. So that was kind of the first step was I saw it and I was like, this is me. This is my role and I can make a big difference here. So I started reaching out. I started using the skills that I had gained kind of in my past experience and ended up realizing it was a really good fit for me and the company thought so too. So that's kind of how I got in the door. Yeah, absolutely. So I applied via the job board. I also reached out. I used all my resources. I was probably super annoying. I reached out to the CEO on LinkedIn. I reached out to the CEO via email. I tried all of his first and last names, Axstar.com. I got a bunch of bounce backs. But I think when you know that you're the fit for something and you want it really bad and you know that you can make a difference, that shows. If as long as you do it out of with a good heart and you do it with your gut feeling and you do it because you know this is a good fit for you. And it's not always going to work out. I was so happy that it did. And, but I would just say, like, again, that over communication working remotely. And I think that really kind of shined with me, but I also see it shine with other people who want to work remotely. I mean, I definitely, you touched on something saying, people don't really know where to start or maybe they're doing it the wrong way. I don't ever, and I can say this collectively for Taxstar as a team, like we don't ever want somebody to come to Taxstar just because they want to work remotely. Like that's not the reason that we're a team. We're not a team because we all just want to travel or work remotely. We're a team because remote work is our passion, but we want to build stuff together. We're passionate about the product. We're passionate about our goals. We're passionate collectively. We want to work amongst smart people who make us better people. And that's the reason I work for Techstar. And that's the reason I see successful hires come on, not just I want to work from home. And I think that is a misconception that some people don't realize when they're applying to a remote position is it's so much more than just having that flexibility. Yeah. Absolutely. And I would actually say a couple of things, just like some nuggets of advice on that. It now I just lost my train of thought. Dang it. Totally. And I actually remembered, I wrote it down. Um, to piggyback off that, which makes a lot of sense, is, you know, I think I've seen some things that are a deterrent, and this is for the audience. Like for the audience, I've seen some things that are a deterrent. Sometimes people will apply to multiple positions that are in totally different departments just because they want to work for our company. But that being said, that shows us that you need to be good at the position that you're applying for. It's not just about wanting to work for the company too. What is your skill set? Where are you going to thrive? And really, really diving into that is huge. Another thing too is make yourself stand out. Spend a lot of time on your application. Reach out to the different hiring managers. Do your research. Read the blogs. Read our, like, we have a Life at Taxstar blog, and people read it all the time, and they love it. And it's so cool for me to see applications that come in that somebody shows that they really spent some time diving into our culture. And that being said, when you're applying for a remote job, so are hundreds of thousands of other people. And this isn't to discourage you, but because we're remote, we also have the ability from our end, and any other remote company has this too, to select from a very, very, very diverse and wide group of talent. So that's another thing to consider too. Just like what you were saying earlier, like it's not just a spray and pray. That doesn't work here. It doesn't work in the remote space. So I think being really conscious and cognizant of that is important. Sure, absolutely. So we have kind of it set up right now, and this isn't to say this isn't going to change in the future, but it's something that's worked for us for pretty well. We have about 3 interviews. So we have the hiring manager first reach out with, a second set of questions or whatever pertains to the role. Obviously, each role is different, and each hiring manager needs a different set of skill sets. If it's a development role, there may be a code review. If it's a marketing role, there may be a special project. Who knows? It totally depends on the hiring manager. If that kind of round goes through, we ask that it goes to a subcommittee. So we try to have at least one, if not multiple people from the team that person may be working on interview the person. We want to hear different perspectives. And then from there, it goes to a culture interview with either our chief of technology, our CEO, or myself. Just really understanding that person's passion for remote work. Will they fit in with our team in terms of communication? Are they curious? Are they entrepreneurial? What is that? So then we actually do a pretty interesting thing that very few companies do. I don't know if you already read about this, but we actually do a 30 to 90-day trial process. So it's a mutual trial. We set salary expectations prior to the trial. That person is paid hourly on a contract basis before accepting a full-time offer if it works out. And we do this to make sure it's a mutual fit for both us and the employee. And we've found that we have huge success with it. And then if that person is offered a full-time role, we can seamlessly transition them and through an onboarding process into being a full-time employee. Absolutely. So a soft landing, and from our perspective too, like our goal is not just like we're growing rapidly, but our goal is not just to fit butts in seats. Like we don't want people just because we need them. Like we want people because we want them to be here a long time, and we want them to be happy. We want them to be contribute to the company, but we also want to make sure it's a good fit for them. So hiring is expensive if somebody doesn't work out. It's not just expensive financially, but emotionally. It takes an emotional toll on the team. We put a ton of work into looking for candidates and through the hiring process, and we don't want that time to go to waste, and we don't want to waste anybody's time either. So it is totally a mutual respect thing, and we found that it really, really helps with longevity in terms of people within the business. And yeah, we've found that it works really well for us. So I don't want to answer that because we don't have an exact, yeah, we don't have an exact terms of timeline. I mean, I think ideally, I'd say average, we try to get people through the interview and pipeline process to a trial within, yeah, 30 to 40, or sorry, not 30, like 3 to 4 weeks. But I don't really want to say that solidly because that changes from role to role. And then obviously, if somebody's coming on trial, sometimes that person's still working a full time job. And so they're going to do a longer trial because they're taking time off from their job or they're going to be working nights or whatever that is. Sometimes people know it's a fit and they leave their job to come full time on trial. It's so dependent on situation. And that's why we're flexible with it because we understand if this person's the right candidate and the right fit, like both them and us are going to work hard to make sure that both parties are satisfied. In terms of, so at the moment, we are pretty much only hiring within the US. That's not to say that you can't travel when you work. Just we are a US based company working on US sales tax. So we would love to grow internationally in the future. We're just not quite there yet. So if you are a US resident or citizen, please think about applying and check out our open roles. They're all posted at taxstar.com/jobs. So yeah. Sure. I mean, this is definitely something as we grow, we are looking a lot more into in terms of finding additional platforms to advertise our jobs on, and whether that be a job platform that really has a lot of women developers who are on that platform. I'm actually in the process of hiring a recruiter right now. So any recruiters out there? Oh, how about now? I'm not sure what's up. My internet's pretty strong. So yes, we're always on the lookout for other platforms that reach a more diverse audience other than just LinkedIn or we work remotely or a jobs board. That being said, I'm actually in the process of hiring a recruiter on the employee experience team. So if anybody has a remote recruiting experience and technical recruiting, please feel free to reach out. That is definitely something that is on the roadmap, and something we're always looking for is kind of finding more diverse ways and to find a more diverse crowd to attract for Techstar. Awesome. So I would just say from kind of a high level overview, the person that we're looking for, we really want to not only build the technical team, but also they'll be hiring for all the roles in our company. So marketing, customer service. So kind of being able to have the skills that transcend across all teams cross-functionally. And this person would be our lead recruiter. They would be our first recruiter. We're at 52 people, excuse me. And they'd be building out a recruiting team also as we grow. So we really want to be able to proactively find candidates. We have a lot of candidates that are coming to us right now, but it's a matter of really finding those quality candidates and having somebody who's on the lookout sourcing and who's working really, really closely with our hiring managers to deeply understand the culture and the roles that need to be filled. That relationship between hiring manager and recruiter, and also the recruiter and myself, we're looking for such a strong relationship there. So that's really what I'm looking for at the moment, and Techstar is looking for. Sure. I would definitely say obvious. I mean, it's a given experience, the experience within the role, and have they used the tools? Have they done this before? It's definitely not a green role for somebody. It's somebody who does have experience doing this. But I would say, again, curiosity, the thoroughness in an application, the sense that this person really, really wants to work as a team. I mean, we really strive hard not to hire people with a strong ego. We are a team. Even our CEO does success tickets. I mean, we are a team, and there is not hierarchy here. Like in terms of really working together, like we are all open and willing to work together. So that is something that's huge that I look for in somebody who's applying. It's a pretty great company. I feel so lucky to work here, and the team is just so incredible and has such an incredible diverse skill set. And also from a personality standpoint, there are people who are amazing bakers that you would never know, that we've learned throughout kind of our social channels. And it really, I get excited every day to wake up and walk to my desk in my slippers and hop online and really, really do some seriously cool work in the world and really help e-commerce sellers solve this problem. Yeah, and totally. And it's the best role for me, though. And I think that's something to note, too. It's not just because I work for a remote company and remote is my number one, and I love the people I work with, and I love our goals and our mission. But before I found this role, I really did some soul searching and what I wanted and what were non-negotiables for me. And also, I did some strength finding courses. I did, what are my strengths? What can I shine in? What can I do? Because I tend to have a sense, and I think a lot of people have this, is, oh, I should be good at everything. Why don't I know how to do this? Like, why am I not the best recruiter, or whatever that may mean? Because I kind of wear a recruiting hat right now. But that being said, you start to learn what you are good at and be confident in that and look for roles that really match up with that within the remote space. Like it's not all about just wanting to work remotely. And I think taking that time for you, whether it means you end up in a remote role or not, is only going to benefit you. Desperation sometimes, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that you shouldn't do? Well, okay, well, I'll start with what you shouldn't do. Don't ever just say you want to work from home. Yeah. I would say, and this really is what so much of what we talked about in the last hour, Alex, is I would say to everyone, find your why. Find your why you want to work for the company that you're looking for. Learn everything about it. Does it match up with your values? Does it match up with something you want to do? Do you see yourself there long term? What can you contribute to the company? But I think something we really try to do with everything we do at Taxjar, like we try to find the why behind every release, behind any sort of implementation from a cultural standpoint that I put in. Like I don't want to just be throwing stuff out there. That becomes noise, right? What is the why behind it, and why are you doing it, and what are results that we can see from it? So I would definitely say that's the biggest thing is find your why on a personal level and then look for companies that really match up with your values. And they're out there. There's more remote companies that are launching every day or becoming more popular every day. This is the new future of work. And I personally don't think, and I truly believe it's not going away. So that would be my final piece of advice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. It was a pleasure to speak with you too, and let's stay in touch. All right. Thanks, Alex.